are Smart City Navigators, a podcast about innovation, sustainability, and new technologies on the market.
This podcast is brought to you by NaviParking. Jakub Sroka is a designer, creator, and artist with over a decade worth of experience in the IT industry. As a chief design officer at NaviParking, he makes sure that customer needs and business goals are translated into a top-notch user experience. In addition to this, Jakub is also oversees all company's design-related endeavors and manages and mentors a team. Let's welcome Jakub Sroka in today's episode of Smart City Navigators podcast. Welcome to Smart City Navigators, another episode with Kuba. Hello, Kuba.
Hi, thank you for having me again here.
How are you today?
Very good, very good. Happy to discuss with you today.
Okay, our previous topic was a very hard topic because it was connecting management and being creative. And today's topic is also very important, and maybe it seems like it's easy, but it's not.
Yeah, it's easy. It's not easy, that's for sure. And also it is more high level, let's say, more philosophical even. I believe that we are about to have a very different trip than previous time.
Yes, and the topic for today's episode is simplicity. So as a designer, because today we are going to dive deep into the world of design, what is simplicity in your opinion?
There's no like a golden recipe, the one formula for simplicity. But yeah, let me start with a question. What phone do you use?
I use Google Pixel right now.
Okay, so pretty modern smartphone, right? Do you find it like easy to use and simple?
I think from my previous experience, yes.
Okay, and I believe that for me and like most people of younger generations, let's say, like modern smartphones are like second nature. They would, for sure, in majority would answer that their iPhones, their smartphones of other brands are very simple to use. But on the other hand, let's imagine those senior phones, that the devices that are targeted towards senior citizens. If you would ask the user of the senior phone if iPhone, for example, is simple to use, they would probably answer that it is not. And I believe that this simple example like shows us that there's no recipe for simplicity. It all boils down to context and like a target group to which you would like to aim your design to. And yeah, modern smartphones for those people wouldn't be simple as we have previously assumed here, because they are probably not used to touch interfaces. They probably were raised in the era where there was no digital devices like we know nowadays. So they have probably harder times, figuring out the patterns that are obvious to us. Like for example, that if you click this icon on the desktop, the application pops up, that you need to swipe right in order to go back, etc. And I have observed that in my family even, where like opening up each app was like a completely different word for such a senior person, and they had hard time capturing those common patterns that are repeated throughout all of the applications.
So how do we know something is simple?
Well, it's not an easy question, but definitely the right one. I think that for starters, we need to clarify that simplicity shouldn't be mistaken with minimalism as a visual style. Let's call it. The simplicity is about removing as many obstacles in achieving a set goal by our user, our target customer. So I believe it all boils down to offering the simplest means of achieving something, let's say, because we need to be general here.
Yeah, and it's also about the individual level of people who interact with those kind of technologies. For one people, something is simple. For other people, is not.
Yeah, exactly. And I would even add to it that simplicity, even if it shouldn't be mistaken with minimalism, it somehow is connected with efficiency, because this sounds like a right path, because if we want to streamline the process of achieving a goal as much as possible. But paradoxically, the simplest things on the surface are usually not the cheapest ones to develop in terms of both time and money and resources, etc. So it may sound kind of pessimistic that if you want something simple, you need to devote a lot of resources, a lot of money, a lot of effort to develop something that is simple for the end user, for the end customer. But on the positive note, the simplicity also usually implies scalability. So if something is simple, we can safely assume that it has potential to be scaled and reused in different scenarios. So when we talk resource management, this is on a positive note, I believe here. But yeah, efficiency and scalability is something definitely for the company that is developing some solution, is something that is on a positive side. Of course, for the user, the solution is simple, so it's positive, by design.
Yeah, it's win-win.
Yeah. Trying to sum up is, first of all, the biggest takeaway from what we have said, I believe, is that you need to know your users, know your customers before you start figuring out what the simplicity means in your case. Let's say, to mind the context of usage of the solution, whatever it is. And yeah, let's take banking interface, for example. This might sound weird, but I have a point in this example here. Let's take a banking interface that is nowadays it's more or less considered as simple, even though it presents some comprehensive data about your balance, about the history of transactions, about your financials, your savings, etc. But in general, for I believe most of the modern people that can use computer decently, the banking interface is something that is relatively simple to use. But let's imagine that for some reason you need to use your banking app, for example, while driving a car, right? It's suddenly,
a nightmare.
Yeah, it suddenly loses this simplicity aspect all of a sudden because of the context change, right?
Yes.
And the example might sound silly, but it is something that we deal with. Most of the core flows in our application, in our flagship application, which is NaviPay, we identify them as at least potentially flows that will be used by someone who is in front of a wheel or driving a vehicle. Well, not maybe exactly a driving, but standing in front of the parking barrier or just approaching the barrier. So we have a lot of aspects here that may change the context and impair the simplicity potentially. So we need to mind when the device, the phone is located in the car. Some people tend to have like a dedicated holder for the phone, which is, I believe, even from the legal perspective, the most optimal way. Some people have the phone laying down somewhere in the glove compartment, on the passenger seat if it's not occupied, etc. So this is the first aspect of it all. The second aspect is the environmental aspect. So if you are trying to get into parking facility using the app, it needs to be quick and very efficient, because there is a potential of a queue of other cars forming up behind you. So this is yet another aspect of the context of use.
You have no time to, managing on a phone what's in the app. You have to just hit the one, maybe 2-3 clicks, and then you have to just navigate to, let's say, to a parking spot, right? Also the same thing with the banking app you said previously. For instance, it might cause a very stressful situation for people. They have to log out, log in, put the PIN number or fingerprints, and then they have to transfer money. Then they have to wait for a parking spot. It's a very stressful situation.
Yeah, it's a very stressful situation. We of course don't advise use your phone while driving. I mean, driving at considerable speeds at least. And switching between different apps during driving sounds even more dangerous. So this is definitely not advised or backed by us as we develop the let's say mobility related apps. So that's why we strive. Of course, the process always there is a space for improvement in our processes, but what we strive for is to make the process as touchless as we like to call as possible. So our ultimate goal is to minimize a need of using your phone while being in front of the wheel while operating your vehicle. So like in an ideal world that is probably closer to fruition than you might expect, we just strive for a flow where user will set up their account, provide their basic details, and that's all that they need to do. And while driving, while they approach the parking entrance and exit, everything will happen automatically. So the cameras will recognize your car at the entrance, of course knowing that this license plates belong to that user, and you have the first connection. Then you are parking, and while trying to exit the facility, the cameras recognize you at the exit barrier. The barrier opens up automatically, of course, in both scenarios. The system knows how long have you been parking, so the amount for the parking is automatically deducted from your credit card, for example. And once you arrive at home, just see the confirmation that thank you for parking. This is a successful transaction. You have paid this and that amount for this, and this is the goal that we strive for. Just to be clear that we don't promote any phone usage while driving, but of course as of right now there are different parking setups. So again, we are going back to this context aspect, right?
The simplicity.
Yeah.
And the other conclusion is more simplicity, less stress. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that is really really nice sentence, I would say. I believe it will show up somewhere on the screen now.
Okay, so maybe let's switch back to maybe broader example, and maybe in general how to improve simplicity of the design.
Yeah. So aside from what has been said already, like a million of times, so doing your homework and knowing your target audience, I believe there are a couple of good, let's say, practices that may help you, just kicking off before doing your research. And the first is the very well known in the UX industry, something that is called Hicks law, and it basically says that the amount of time needed for the user to make a decision, it increases with the complexity and the amount of the options that the users have. For example, Apple products compared to other brands. I believe that Apple also follows this Hicks law with their lines of products, where each season with each new model you have like a very limited amount of options to choose from. So for example, if new iPhone premieres, you have like 2 or 3 models to choose from. So for someone who has more basic needs and is more on budget, there is like a budget phone, there's like a middle range phone, and the most powerful device. Apple offers like a constant experience that is, if you switch from your old iPhone to new iPhone and from old iMac to new iMac, the experience is more or less the same, but the new device is, has like a more sleek design and more powerful components, but you feel at home right away. And the second and the last tip, I believe, will be to take advantage of some, let's say, well-rehearsed and automatic kind of behavior of people. Let's take, for example, the icon that closes the window of the app, for example. Yeah, it usually has a form of some kind of like an X symbol. Yeah, and it's located somewhere probably in the top right corner of the window. In most times. So for your app, for your product, in this example, it will be probably good to take advantage of this, that majority of the users are used to this flow of closing the window by this X icon that is located somewhere in the top right corner, and not reinventing it by introducing some new icon design or changing the placement of the functionality, because you will lose that almost subconscious behavior of the users that is like a second nature to them.
And it's even implemented in humans' mind. It's, for instance, if you see in the top right corner heart, you're not going to click to close the window, probably.
Yeah, or you will click intuitively, and then you will be disappointed because you have liked something instead of closing the window, right?
Yes. Okay, Kuba, to wrap this up, what is simplicity in the last few words for you?
Well, I would say it's removing complexity in achieving users or customers' goals. Yeah, this is not an official definition of that term, but I believe that based on what we have discussed here, it can be said that way. And the key takeaway from this discussion will be something that has already been repeated a lot of times, but please do your while designing, please do your homework and be mindful in to who you target your designs and what are the goals of those groups.
All right, Kuba, nice. I think we have another great episode.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope so.
Thank you for listening, and we see you next time on the next episode of Smart City Navigators.
Yeah, and don't forget the bell icon.
See ya.
Thank you very much. See you.
Thank you for listening to Smart City Navigators podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Join the conversation by leaving a comment and sharing your thoughts. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode, in which we'll do another deep dive into a topic related to innovation, sustainability, and new technologies. See you next time.